If you have very slippery hands or just want to be very careful with your money, a phone like Redmi Note 9 should be on your list. It has everything to become another Xiaomi hit without being a conventional flagship. Welcome back to Need to Know. You're watching from your phone, right? Well, make sure you have a good grip, because otherwise your main lifesaver in this quarantine may go down the drain. Well, fall on the ground, and if the display cracks, it's the end of it. Repairs can cost around half of the original price of the phone, at least when we're talking about iPhone. And, you guessed it, one of our mates just went through this with his iPhone. But hey, iPhones are costly phones, right? Flagships? You can't ask a flagship to be cheap. Or can you? Turns out, Redmi Note 9 will defy all odds with a mix of premium features and an unbelievably low price. If you have slippery hands or just want to be very careful with your money, a phone like Redmi Note 9 should be on your list. It has everything to become another Xiaomi hit without being a conventional flagship. No, it's not a 5G phone, and it doesn't have an 100-something megapixel camera. But when did ingredients ever taste better than the finished cake? It's the same thing with phones. Mix the right tech together and you can still have a winner, even if some ingredients were last year's flavor. Redmi Note 9 is set to come with a 6.5-inch LCD, Full HD display. Not surprising for a phablet that's not a flagship by any means. Under the hood, you'll probably find a Helio G85 processor. This is very similar to the G70, but should come with better graphics performance. How's the memory? Guys, you get 6 GB of RAM, no joke, and 128 GB of storage with a microSD slot thrown in there for good measures. And get this, it's going to launch with a quad camera. A couple of years ago, a triple or quad camera was unheard of in a budget phone. Rumor is you'll get a main 48-megapixel camera with an 8-megapixel ultra-wide and 2-megapixel macro and depth sensors. If selfies are your thing, you'll get to play with a 13-megapixel front lens. Yes, you've seen better, but hang in there. The battery and price will make up for these so-and-so features. Okay, so from what we've seen so far from Xiaomi, it's very likely that this phone will have a 5000 mAh battery. Some argue it's a 4920 cell, others that it's a 5020. We will know for sure this April 30 when Redmi officially announces it. No matter who's right, one thing stands. That's a monster battery, guys. It's a noteworthy battery. A battery like that can last 5 days in normal use. How do I know? Well, we've just reviewed another budget phone, Infinix Note 7, with a similar battery. We were actually blown away by the battery life in a device that's about $200. Not just that, but it carries the same RAM and storage configuration and an even better selfie cam than the Redmi Note 9. Really? Don't know it? Well, I'll put the link up if you want to check it out. Okay, now coming back to the Redmi Note 9, it's got the battery, camera, and hey, even chip to make me take another look. And like the Infinix, it comes at about $211. Now, will it have issues? For sure, there's no flawless phone out there. It's up to you to decide if you'll take a chance on it. Wait, take a chance on me? Okay, sorry, excuse me, I just had an ABBA moment. Especially since budget powerhouse phones are on the rise. Really, phones that look and act the part of a flagship but sell for a couple of $100s are launching every month now. In fact, before the Note 9 showed up, the Pro and Pro Max versions made headlines in India. The way Redmi chose to release these phones is a bit weird, but they're probably hoping to sell more Pro versions than the standard ones. The Note 9 Pro Max has a Snapdragon 720G processor, 8 GB of RAM, a 64-megapixel main camera, and 33 watts fast charging. It's a clear upgrade from the base Note 9 we'll see this week. So how much would it cost? $300? $350? No guys, about $250. Price-wise, Xiaomi and Redmi are keeping their rivals on their toes, even if they're leaders in India. There, Xiaomi is selling more and more phones from different lineups. Redmi is a favorite, but so is Pocophone. When you think about it, India is right now the second largest mobile market before the US, and that's saying something. It's also a market where only half of the total users are on a 4G data plan. It may seem weird to some of you depending on where you live, but people are still transitioning from feature phones to smartphones there. So, you can't push prices too much. You have to find the right mix of features that draw in millennials but won't empty their pockets. Is that Xiaomi's secret of success? That's anyone's guess, but one thing's obvious. It's not that secret anymore. Oppo, Vivo, Realme are struggling to share the stage with Xiaomi. There's a fierce race where the obvious contenders, Apple and Samsung, are not leading but following. Samsung is betting on its A series of phones there, while Apple is still fighting to gain ground. After they priced iPhone 11 lower than the iPhone XR, customers in India perked up. If they can keep at it while lowering the bill of materials, they could take the lead there too. Until that happens, keep your eyes open for Realme phones. This Oppo-owned brand seems to play on Oppo's strengths while keeping a low price. From what I've seen, they tend to keep the same slick aesthetic and breakthrough camera features, but offer amazing prices. Just by looking at the spec sheet, the rumored Realme X50M should be a flagship. For one, I will support 5G. While the display will be an LCD, not an OLED, it will launch with 120Hz refresh rate, a feature we've come to associate with gaming phones. The battery will be slightly poorer than the one on Redmi Note 9. The made-quad camera should perform equally good, but the selfie camera will shine. It's a 16-megapixel and 2-megapixel combo module that can record at 120 frames per second. You won't be as impressed by the X50M video power though. A birdie told me it can do 1080p clips, and that's it. However, if you're a RAM chaser, you'll appreciate the 8GB version set to launch too. China will test it first for an approximate price of $280. Another under $300 phone? Yep, I'm telling you, they'll just keep on coming. In fact, to cover all their bases, Realme is ready to follow up with a second flagship these months. Called X3 Super Zoom, it should look a lot like the Reno 2019. Unlike the phones we've talked about so far, this one will bring a Snapdragon 855 to the table. 12GB of RAM too, besides the main highlight. 50 times digital zoom. I assume this baby should be in the $300-400 simply because those parts have got to cost, guys. And Realme has the market on its side. They're in the top 5 most sold phones in India, and they are straightening their ties with this market with every new launch. The Realme 6 Pro was one of the first phones with ISRO Navic. What's that? ISO? Nope, ISRO, India's own locally made GPS. As reliable as that navigation system or GLONASS. The only thing that might slow them down is something they don't have control of, like the pandemic. It's the only thing that could shift this balance of power by putting on hold launch and sale plans. We've already seen it happen with Note 9 Pro models. If the Pro came out, the Max was delayed indefinitely. And even if these phones make it out locally, their global launch is a different discussion. Online retailers will soon be out of stock and confirmed orders will be delayed. Prepare for these issues. At this moment, companies' hands are tied. The supply chain is out of whack, since many of the factories where phones are assembled are in China to begin with. The only silver lining is that in the current economy, prices are sure to drop. More $200 premium phones are on their way to us. Yay! I don't know about you, but we're suckers for a good deal. And hey, if you do end up dropping it, I guess it's a lot better to regret a $200 mistake than a $1,000 one. Or not? What are you most worried about when you hear about super low-priced phones? Tell us in the comments, and don't forget, subscribe and hit the bell button if you want to see more videos like this. Stay safe, guys!